for attending. My name is Renee Heflin. I am the Plant Engineering Manager for the Metropolitan Council Environmental Services. Today, I will be presenting with Stephen Norton, Auburn Dees, and Amanda Ballou. Thank you, Stephen. This is Stephen Norton. He is the project manager. Auburn, if you can turn on your video, please.
It's on, Renee.
Oh, thank you. I don't see it. Auburn Dees is the contract administrator. And Amanda Ballou. I don't see her yet here, but Amanda Ballou, she is the council's small business specialist. Next slide, please. Thank you, everyone. Before we begin, I want to cover some meeting instructions. Attendees are muted and video has been disabled to help preserve bandwidth. We have 70 people registered, but you only see the meeting presenters. Technical assistance for this meeting is being provided by HDR. If you experience technical difficulties, please call or text the number shown here, 651-691-9124, or email info@metrosolids.com. Alicia is the person behind the scenes. There you go. Hi, Alicia. This is Alicia Tepper with HDR, and she is the one who will help us with the presentation, and she will be the one answering questions when you reach out, should you use the email or the text number. Thank you, Alicia. Although you are muted, we encourage you to ask questions. We will answer questions in the chat and verbal questions later on at the end of the presentation during the Q&A section. You can ask anonymous questions to the panelists throughout the presentation using the Q&A box in the bottom right of your screen. And during the Q&A section, at the end, we will give instructions on how to do that. We are recording this event for our records and so that others can view it in the future. After the meeting, the recorded video and presentation will be posted to the event page on the project website, and that link is shown here on the slide. A thank you email and an event page link will also be mailed to all meeting attendees. So with that, I'd like to get started with the presentation. Next slide, please. The purpose of our event today is to inform contractor and engineering companies about the Council's upcoming 4th Incinerator Design Build project. The project is located at the Metropolitan Wastewater Treatment Plant in St. Paul, Minnesota, and the planning level construction cost estimate is around $150 million. Next slide, please. Today's session will include an overview about the Metropolitan Council and the Environmental Services Division, background on incineration at the Metropolitan Wastewater Treatment Plant, project scope, our design, build, procurement approach, the Metropolitan Council Underutilized Business or MCUB program, and next steps in terms of implementation schedule. Next slide, please. I am happy to start with providing or presenting an overview about the Council and its Environmental Services Division. Next slide, please. The Metropolitan Council is a regional policymaking and planning agency that provides essential services for Minnesota's Twin Cities metropolitan region. The council has 4 main divisions, which fall under regional administration. So the first one, Metro Transit, operates the regional transit system. Environmental Services operates the regional wastewater collection and treatment system. Metropolitan Transportation Services provides transit planning and operates metro mobility. Community Development provides regional planning for growth and regional parks and open spaces, and community development also provides housing services. The council's mission is to foster efficient and economic growth for a prosperous region. Next slide, please. Metropolitan Council Environmental Services operates the regional wastewater collection and treatment system to serve a 7-county Twin Cities metro area, as shown here. We serve 2.7 million people living in 111 communities. That's about half of the population of the state of Minnesota. The regional wastewater treatment system is comprised of 10 wastewater treatment plants connected to 640 miles of interceptor sewers. MCS has over 600 employees who operate and maintain the regional wastewater system. And we spend roughly $150 million per year in the capital program to keep it in tip-top shape. The Metro plant is shown on this map, and the Metro plant service area is shaded green. It is the largest MCES wastewater treatment plant. It treats 180 million gallons of wastewater every day, which is about 65% of our total system flow. It treats 850 wet tons of solids every day, which is about 75% of the region's wastewater solids. The Metro plant treats wastewater solids from its own service area, the green area, plus solids from 4 other MCES treatment plants: East Bethel, Eagles Point, St. Croix Valley, and Hastings, as indicated here on this map. Next slide. Adding a 4th incinerator at the Metro plant will help us preserve existing wastewater infrastructure and serve regional population growth. The existing incinerators at the Metro plant are nearing 20 years old, and they need renewal. Additional solids processing capacity will allow us to take the existing incinerators down for extended periods of time in order to perform the renewal work. Also, 500,000 new residents are expected to join the Metro plant service area by 2050. Although wastewater flows are historically holding steady or maybe even declining a little bit due to water conservation efforts, solids loading continues to increase with population growth, and the Metro plant needs an additional incineration capacity to process projected solids loadings through the year 2050. Next slide, please. We have an approved facility plan that approved by the council that recommends that the addition of a 4th incinerator is the most cost-effective and sustainable solution for the Metro plant, at the Metro plant. And following an extensive communications campaign, we held a public hearing. The council approved the facility plan October of 2018, and we have contracted with an owner's agent to provide preliminary design services and help us to develop an RFP for a design build contract to add a fourth incinerator at the Metro plant. Next slide, please. This project will require an air permit amendment for the Metro plant, and MCS will complete air permitting and a voluntary environmental assessment worksheet prior to execution of the design build contract. The Minnesota Pollution Control Agency, or MPCA, and the EPA, the Federal Environmental Protection Agency, are the two main government bodies that regulate our wastewater treatment plant air emissions. As shown here, air permitting and environmental review will be completed on concurrent tracks. Next slide, please. And now I would like to turn it over to Stephen Norton to discuss more details, project-specific details. Thank you.
Thanks, Renee. Like Renee mentioned before, my name is Stephen Norton, and I'm a principal engineer and project manager for the fourth incinerator project with MCES. I'll start off with a little background about how solids are processed at the Metro plant. Next slide, please. The Metro plant has been incinerating solids for 80 years with an exceptional track record of environmental compliance. From 1938 to 2005, the Metro plant used multiple hearth incinerators to process solids. In 2005, those units were replaced with 3 fluidized bed incinerators with state-of-the-art energy recovery and air pollution control equipment. The project tripled the energy recovery and significantly reduced emissions from the previous multiple hearth incinerators. The Metro plant has one of the most advanced and highest performing incineration systems in the country. Next slide, please. Shown here is a cross-section of our existing incinerator trains. At the Metro plant, we use fluidized bed incineration technology. Our existing 3 incinerators are sized for 130 dry tons per day each, and we have a total permitted capacity of 315 dry tons per day, with 3 incinerators running. Following incineration, the hot flue gas goes through an energy recovery system, which captures the thermal energy, ultimately reducing purchased natural gas and electricity. Energy recovery system includes a primary heat exchanger, waste heat boiler, and secondary heat exchanger. And during the winter months, that steam provides heating to buildings around the plant. And during the summer months, that steam is sent to a steam turbine to generate electricity. The air pollution control system includes a carbon tower, baghouse, wet scrubber, and wet electrostatic precipitator. Next slide, please. The existing Metro plant incinerators have an exceptional track record of environmental compliance, and MCES is proud of their performance. Sewage sludge incinerators must meet very stringent air emission regulations. In 2010, new federal emission standards were set for existing incinerators constructed before 2010. At that time, more stringent standards were also set for new incinerators constructed after 2010. This graph shows our existing emissions compared to the new incinerator standards. Note that the data has been normalized. Each standard is represented as 100%, and in each case, our emissions are a fraction of the new standard. These results give us confidence that the fourth incinerator, which will be permitted as a new incinerator, will be capable of meeting the lower standards. Also, because of these results, our plan is to provide the same air pollution control equipment for the fourth incinerator as our existing incinerators. Wastewater treatment is a highly regulated utility, and consistent compliance with water, air, and all other environmental permits is very important to us and our customers. Next slide. Next, I'll go into some detail on the project scope. Next slide, please. The fourth incinerator schedule is carefully coordinated with other capital projects in MCES's capital program. Fourth incinerator will be constructed after a smaller renewal and improvements project currently under construction. MCES plans to add a 4th parallel incineration train similar to our existing system. The estimated project costs, like Renee mentioned before, is $150 million, will be delivered via fixed price design build and be constructed from 2024 to 2026. An extensive renewal would then be completed on the existing incinerators 1, 2, and 3 from 2027 to 2029. This will be a design bid build project with an estimated cost of $30 million. All in all, MCS will be spending roughly $200 million over the next 8 years on Metro Plant solids projects. Next slide, please. On the graphic above, you can see a cutaway of a preliminary rendering of the main building addition with the incinerator equipment in green. Fourth incinerator will include 21,000 square feet in building additions. In general, the project scope includes site work, building additions, cake feed, including dewatering and cake receiving facilities, the fourth incinerator system, a new steam turbine generator, and miscellaneous support systems. I'll go through these scope items in more detail on the following slides. Next slide, please. The graphic shown here is a preliminary site plan for the project. There are 2 building additions. The first one will house the incinerator train and cake feed equipment, which is roughly 18,600 square feet. The second will house the new steam turbine generator, which is roughly 2,500 square feet. A geotechnical evaluation has been completed and has indicated that the building additions and new structures will require piles. You can also see from the site plan that the existing roadways and pavement will be reconfigured so that deliveries and cake receiving trucks can back up to the new addition. The existing stormwater pond will also be modified to accommodate this. A new third electrical feed to SMB will also be provided from the main substation inside the plant. Also shown on the site plan is an existing 42-inch stormwater pipe that will be relocated around the building addition. Also shown are new propane storage tanks and feed facilities so that propane can be used as a backup fuel source for all the incinerators and the existing auxiliary boilers. The council and our owner's advisor team has completed a building code review and has been working with building and fire code officials with the city of St. Paul and has reached a preliminary agreement on what the building occupancy and construction type should be. Additionally, because the Metro plant is near the downtown St. Paul airport, our team is also working with the FAA on review of our new structures, stacks, and potential cranes as part of the project. Our goal is to have agreement with the city of St. Paul and determinations from the FAA so that there is more certainty on these items when the design build RFP is issued. Next slide, please. The project includes expanding dewatering facilities and installing new cake receiving facilities. The expanded dewatering facilities will include 2 centrifuge feed pumps, 2 polymer feed pumps, 2 centrifuges, 1 cake bin, and 2 cake pumps. The project also includes new cake receiving facilities so that MCES can accept dewatered solids from other MCES wastewater treatment plants on an emergency backup basis. The cake receiving facilities include 1 cake receiving bin, 1 cake pump, odor control, and piping and valves to the 4 incinerators. Next slide, please. Like I mentioned before, because of the exceptional performance of our existing incinerator system, our plan is to provide a very similar system for the 4th incinerator. We are planning on the system being sized for 130 dry tons per day. Energy recovery would include a primary heat exchanger, waste heat boiler, and secondary heat exchanger. The air pollution control system would include a carbon tower, baghouse, wet scrubber, and wet electrostatic precipitator. The stack would be located in the same location and height as the existing stacks. The 4th incinerator will be designed to meet the MAC standards for new fluid bed incinerators. We will also have limits for PM10 and PM2.5 required to meet the National Ambient Air Quality Standards. Because we've been operating our existing 3 fluid bed incinerators for over 15 years, we plan on making some improvements in the 4th incinerator system based on the lessons we have learned. A couple of these improvements include specifying a horizontal waste heat boiler and improved materials of construction and certain pieces of equipment. The graphic above shows a preliminary cross-section of the main 4th incinerator addition. There are 4 main levels, 1 below grade and 3 above grade, matching the elevations of the existing building. It's very important from an operational and maintenance perspective that the 4th incinerator project integrates seamlessly with our existing facilities. Next slide, please. The project will also include a new steam turbine generator. This steam turbine generator would be added in a new slab-on-grade building addition north of SMB, with electrical rooms and gear attached. It will be sized for between 1 and 7 megawatts in capacity and include 15 psi and 150 psi extraction zones, as those are the steam pressures that are used throughout the plant and at SMB. It would also include a grade level condenser using plant effluent water. Energy recovery is very important to the Metro plant, and currently the energy recovered is used within the plant and saves customers roughly $2 million per year. Next slide, please. Finally, there are multiple support systems that will also be included in this project, which include a new vacuum ash conveyance system for all 4 incinerators, a new housekeeping vacuum, a new carbon storage silo, sand storage modifications, effluent water system modifications, a new boiler feed water system, a new propane backup fuel system, like I mentioned before, a new auxiliary condenser system, and then finally an ammonia system if it's determined to be needed during commissioning. And with that, I'll turn it over to Auburn Dees to talk about procurement.
Thank you, Stephen. Good morning, everybody. As Stephen said, my name is Auburn Dees. I am a program manager in the procurement department here at the council, and I have been assigned as the RFQ and RFP administrator for this project. And what that means is that I will facilitate the procurement from the request through an executed contract and the notice to proceed. During the process, I encourage you to contact me with questions, and my contact information is provided on the last slide in this presentation. Next slide, please. To start with the procurement objectives for this project, the end goal is a single fixed price design build contract, as Stephen mentioned. Selection of both the design build contractor and the incinerator vendor will be based on the best value to the council, considering qualifications and price. And during that process, the council strives always to maintain a fair and open competitive process and to remain compliant with all applicable laws and policies. Next slide. So the procurement approach for this particular project is a 3-part procurement. Part 1 will be a request for proposals to select the incinerator vendor. The council will evaluate proposals and select the incinerator vendor's proposal that offers the best value to the council. That selected incinerator vendor will be expected to support the shortlisted design build proposers during the design build RFP, and to enter into a subcontract with the selected design builder to design, provide, and install the incinerator train. The council will enter into a small professional technical services contract with that selected incinerator vendor to compensate the vendor for their time in supporting the design build proposers during the design build RFP process. Part 2 will be a request for qualifications, inviting interested design builders to submit statements of qualifications. And the council will evaluate those submittals and shortlist the 3 most qualified design builders. And then finally, part 3 will be an RFP for the design build contract. The 3 shortlisted design builders will be invited to submit proposals, and the end result is intended to be that single fixed price design build contract with the highest ranked proposer. And again, that awarded design builder will be expected to execute a subcontract with the incinerator vendor that the council selected in part 1. Next slide, please. So all 3 parts of this solicitation will be advertised on the council's contracting opportunities page. And on that page, there's also a way to register to receive email updates when new contracting opportunities are posted. So we encourage you to both monitor the page and also to sign up to be sure you get notices when new ads are posted. All of the RFP and RFQ documents will be electronic. They'll all be available for downloading through Quest CDN, which is the council's bid management provider. And in turn, all submittals, all proposals, and statements of qualifications will be submitted electronically through Quest CDN. We aren't collecting any paper. Everything will go through Quest CDN. And then the advertisements on the council's contracting opportunities page contain the link to Quest CDN and instructions for how to access the documents. Go to the next slide. So we'll just go through these quickly. This is just a graphic on how to get to the contracting opportunities page. So if you start at metrocouncil.org and then select contracting opportunities at the top, and then next slide. Unfortunately, it's not a single click. There's another click on the left side there to get to contracting opportunities. And then next slide. This slide I'll pause on for a minute. This is the actual contracting opportunities page. I highlighted a couple things on this page. The top red box is highlighting the spot where you can register to receive an email when a new opportunity is posted. And the lower box is showing what the advertisements look like. In this case, we also posted the notice for this meeting, but the advertisements will go here as well. And then you would click on the number of the contract to pop up a PDF advertisement that contains basic information about the project and the link to Quest CDN. Just a note that all of the solicitations for this project will contain the number 21P055. My intent at this point is to add a letter for each part just to help everyone differentiate. So you'll see an A, a B, or a C, depending on if we're in part 1, 2, or 3. All right, next slide, please. My light just went out. I'm going to do the wave thing here. There we go. As far as the RFP and RFQ process goes, this is just a brief overview, and it also includes some suggestions. It's going to be really, really important to read the documents closely and follow the instructions, and to complete and include all of the required forms in your submittals. And again, please reach out to me if you have questions about those requirements. And all of those submittals will be submitted through Quest as a complete PDF or zip file. Once the submittals are received by the council, they will be reviewed for responsiveness and responsibility. Just a quick recap. Responsiveness means that the submittal substantially complies with the requirements, that the instructions were followed, that all required forms are included, filled out, signed if needed. And responsibility refers to the capacity of the proposer to do the work. So have you demonstrated in your statement of qualifications or in your proposal that you have the qualifications, the experience, and the resources to successfully complete the project? From there, proposals or statements of qualifications are reviewed by an evaluation panel at the council, and they are reviewed based on the criteria that are published in the RFQ document or the RFP document. Each member of that panel completes an independent review of the proposals, and then I facilitate a group discussion of the panel to eventually come to consensus on the proposal that represents the best value to the council, or we say is most advantageous to the council. That panel may make the decision in the first meeting. It may decide that it needs some follow-up questions, that it wants to interview. So it really depends on the panel and the circumstances. So I can't guarantee any of those things will happen, or maybe all of those things will happen. Ultimately, the panel makes a recommendation to senior leaders at the council. And the final selection official is actually, for a project of this size, will actually be the Metropolitan Council, and they will act to approve award when we get to that point. They hold the final decision-making authority. So that ends my quick overview of the procurement process, and so I will hand it off to Amanda Bolio.
Thank you, Auburn. As Auburn said, my name is Amanda Bolio. I am the Small Business Specialist with the Office of Equal Opportunity here at the Metropolitan Council that will be assigned to this project throughout its life for MCUB compliance. Next slide, please. The Met Council is committed to utilizing businesses owned by socially and economically disadvantaged individuals in its procurement and contracting efforts. To support that commitment, the Met Council facilitates the Metropolitan Council Underutilized Business Program, or MCUB, for locally funded projects. The Office of Equal Opportunity, or OEO, will be setting a numeric MCUB goal on this project in a later phase of the procurement process. Next slide, please. Who is included in the MCUB program? You must be a Minnesota-based firm. It's not a separate certification. What it does is recognize the qualifications of existing certifications. Those certifications are the Targeted Group Business, or TGB program, which is part of the state of Minnesota, the Veteran-Owned Small Business Programs, again, Department of Admin or state of Minnesota, the Disabled-Owned Small Businesses, again, Department of Admin, the Disadvantaged Business Enterprise, or DBE program, and the Central Certification Program, or CERT, with the City of St. Paul. Next slide, please. MCUB firms can be found listed in the MCUB directory. We do provide the link here on this slide. Firms can be searched via NAICS codes or keyword searches. Please contact me or anybody else in the Office of Equal Opportunity if you need assistance using the directory. As I said, we will not be setting a small business goal during this phase of the project, but it is something to keep in mind as you move on to later phases. With that, I'll hand it back over to Renee. Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda. I am going to provide just next steps in terms of implementation schedule, and before the Q&A, share some contact information with the group. So I will do that now. Next slide, please. As I mentioned previously, MCS is working on air permitting and environmental review, and we intend to complete these steps before executing the design build contract January 2024. This project will likely require what is called a State Implementation Plan, or SIP, review by the EPA, and that can take up to 18 months to complete. In the meantime, in the near term, we will initiate procurement, starting with advertising the incinerator vendor RFP in January 2022. That's next month. The design build request for qualifications, our RFQ, will be advertised February of 2022, just a month after advertising the incinerator vendor RFP. We will select one incinerator vendor and pre-qualify up to 3 design build teams. That's our plan. And we will distribute the design build RFP to pre-qualified design build teams July of 2022. If the SIP revision and design build RFP process go quicker, then we can start the project sooner in 2023. But this is our schedule to complete our air permitting environmental review, our execution of a contract with a incinerator vendor, pre-qualification of design build teams up to 3. We would like to do that by the beginning of 2024 and be able to start the design build project January of 2024. Next slide. We do understand the importance of seeing site for a project like this, and we are offering site visits Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, the first week of January. We're making, as shown here, we're making 2-hour slots available for interested parties to visit the Metro Plant Solids Management Building. And with the pandemic still ongoing, we request that companies try to limit their group size. We also require masks during the tour, regardless of vaccination status. To schedule a site visit, please contact Stephen Norton. His contact information is shown on this slide, as well as others. But if you contact Stephen, you can reserve your 2-hour slot, one of these 2-hour slots shown here. Next slide. And with that, I'm going to ask, oh, I see here's the contact information. Again, that you may reference when we send out the slide materials. Those are the project website. We've repeated it here, as well as I believe it was one of the initial slides. And we have Amanda, Auburn, and Stephen. Their contact information is shown here for questions concerning whether it's MCUB, procurement, or project-specific questions. Next slide. Now we're ready to start the questions, and I'm going to turn it over to Stephen to facilitate. And I think, Stephen, if you would provide instructions too on how to submit a question. Thank you.
Thanks, Renee. With that, we'll open it up for questions. Just a reminder, we encourage you to ask questions. If you put the questions into the chat, those go to the panelists. You can put those questions into the chat right now using the Q&A box in the bottom right. We already see a few in there that we'll get to. If you would like to ask a verbal question, please click on the participants button in the lower right corner of your screen. A box with your name will appear, and then please click on the hand button next to your name to raise your hand. And I will announce your name and unmute you to allow you to ask your question. And so with that, we'll start going through the questions that are currently in the Q&A. The first question I think I'll send to Renee. The question is, what other collaboratively delivered projects has Metro Council previously completed?
Thank you. So we have completed the Metropolitan Council Environmental Services has completed several design build projects, including laboratory at the Metro plant. We built the Eagles Point, the whole Eagles Point wastewater treatment plant in Cottage Grove, design build. We also have East Bethel wastewater treatment plant in East Bethel, constructed using design build delivery. Modifications to the admin building at Metro. We do have some extensive experience relative to other wastewater treatment agencies in design build. Thank you. Hope that answers the question.
Great, thanks, Renee. I think we have another question probably coming your way, Renee. The question is, why did you select fixed price design build method rather than a progressive design build method?
Thank you, Stephen. And can I add to the first question? I forgot one of the important ones most related to this project. We constructed the first 3 incinerators at the Metro plant was a design build contract. And that kind of leads me to the second question. Why did we select fixed price design build rather than a progressive design build method. This is legislative ability provided to the Metropolitan Council is to construct wastewater treatment facilities and infrastructure using fixed price design build. We would need to get a change in legislature to be able to do progressive design build. And basically we, our contracts need to be limited with the maximum contract amount. And I would invite Auburn, if you would have anything to add, because she's really procurement. Would you have anything to add to those statements?
I don't at this point, Renee, no.
Thank you.
Great, thanks, Renee. The next question is, and I'll throw this out to maybe Renee or Auburn, is will you be holding confidential one-on-one meetings with the shortlisted design build teams during the proposal phase to discuss technical and commercial issues?
I can take that one if you like. That is definitely something we are considering, but the determination hasn't been made yet as to whether we're actually going to do that or what they'll look like, but that is definitely on the table as something that we may do. I understand that that's pretty typical in a design build contract of this type. So we are been working with our risk management department and our Office of General Counsel to determine how we might be able to do that.
Awesome, great. Thank you, Auburn. The next question we have is, what firm is providing owner advisory services to the Metro Council? I can take that one. Black & Veatch is the owner's advisor. As some of their subs include Brown & Caldwell is a sub to them. Also Stantec doing the air permitting, working with us on the air permitting. There's also some other companies, Building Consulting Group, Lucan Architecture, and Ronnie Engineering that are working on the project as well. If Renee, you want to add anything else? Okay. The next question are MCUB requirements were not required at this time. When would these be anticipated? Amanda, would you maybe like to elaborate on kind of when the MCUB, I think you mentioned earlier that MCUB, there will be a MCUB goal for this project, but maybe you could elaborate on when that goal might be shared or available.
I'd be more than happy to. So at this time, we are not setting an MCUB goal. In the next phase, we will be asking for an MCUB inclusion plan. The final phase is where you'll see that MCUB goal, and that's when we have our short list of proposers, and they will be proposing on the actual project. I think that about answers it, but if you need clarification, please let me know.
Great, thanks, Amanda. Another question here is the design build RFP is 18 months long. Will the incinerator vendor be expected to support this process at its own expense? I can take the first stab at this, and then maybe Renee or Auburn, you can jump in. But we're not expecting that the RFP, like Auburn mentioned, we will have a professional services contract with that incinerator vendor. While the design builders are putting their price together for the design build RFP. So I think the intent is that the incinerator vendor would be compensated through that professional services contract to support the teams when that design build RFP is on the street and the design build teams are putting together their proposals. So that's assisting the design build teams and helping putting their costs together or what other information they need. Technically, that contract stays open until the incinerator vendor goes into a subcontract with the design builder. But once the RFPs are submitted and the proposals are kind of in the review stage and it's going through the process at the councils, I would not expect it to be much support at that time. I don't know if Renee or Auburn want to add anything to that?
Stephen, I think too that we've discussed including an escalation clause of some sort or a price adjustment clause so that if prices are significantly different from what's proposed for the incinerator train at the time we take proposals and then 18 months later when they're expected to subcontract, I believe we've put that in there.
Correct. Yeah, there will be a kind of a way to determine escalation for the price that's submitted with the incinerator vendor at that time. Correct. There's another question of, will the incinerator vendor be in privy with MCES or with the selected design build contractor? Not exactly sure what that means, but I can say that the incinerator vendor will have the small professional services contract with the council, which the purpose of that again is to support the design build teams to work with all 3 teams equally during that design build RFP stage. After that stage, the contract or the equipment itself and the installation of that, the incinerator vendor will be a subcontractor to the design builder. So the only contract that we will have with the incinerator vendor is that small professional services contract. The contract for all the equipment and the incinerator equipment and that installation, that will be as a subcontractor to the design builder. The next question is the design build proposal need to be a Minnesota-based contractor? Auburn, would you like to take that one?
No, the prime does not need to be a Minnesota-based contractor.
Great, thank you, Auburn. The next question, I think maybe we'll send to Amanda. What percentage goals will you have for targeted businesses and workforce? Can the equipment be excluded from these percentages? I believe that's referring to the goal on the project as it relates to the MCUB.
So I can speak to the MCUB goals. I cannot speak towards workforce goals as my office does not monitor that for these projects. That goes through the state of Minnesota. As far as the percentage goal, I can't speak to that at this time. That will just depend on the information that we get from our owner's advisor and where we are further on down in the process. So when the RFP does come out, that percentage, that numerical percentage for the MCUB bit of it will be made very clear. Hopefully that answers your question. Unfortunately, I can't give you more information at this time.
Auburn, do you have anything to share on the workforce or?
I don't at this time. I don't. We often include workforce goals, the state's workforce goals in our standard construction. I don't think I'm far enough down the line yet with the RFP to know what those will be or if they'll be included. But they will definitely, if they are, they will definitely be included in the RFP document.
Great, thanks Auburn, thanks Amanda. The next question is, will Black & Veatch be providing drawings or specifications during the RFQ and RFP stage, provide cursory information that could be used to gather preliminary pricing in preparation for the RFP? Let's see, I think I could maybe take a first stab at it and then maybe Renee, you can jump in with some additional details. I know with the incinerator vendor RFP, we will have some preliminary drawings of the incinerator train layouts, some sections, a general site plan. So we will have that information provided in the incinerator vendor RFP. We'll also in the incinerator vendor RFP have some specific specifications for the incinerator equipment itself. For the RFQ, maybe I will let Renee answer that. But for the RFP, we'll definitely have some degree of drawings and general specifications included with the design build RFP. I don't know, Renee, if you want to comment on the design build RFQ.
I didn't think we had particular plans for making that information available during the RFQ, except that I would say we were going to make that available, Stephen, during the incinerator vendor RFP. So I don't see any problem if you guys think it's helpful to make that information available during the RFQ process to the potential design build teams.
Great. Thanks, Renee. The next question I will maybe pass to Renee in Auburn. Do you anticipate a stipend to be provided to design build participants in the RFP stage? And if so, what is the amount?
No, we will not provide a stipend to design build teams, is the short answer.
Right. Great. Thank you, Renee. The next question is, who were the team members of the design build team that successfully designed and constructed incinerators 1 through 3? I know there was 3 separate contracts with that project. There was one design build contract for the incinerator train, and that company was Von Roll, is who provided the original 3 incinerators. I don't know if Renee, if you could share maybe the contracts. The other 2 contracts were design bid build contracts for the rest of the civil site work and the building itself and the dewatering. If Renee, you could share those contractors.
Right. So I would just like to say that the question, Stephen, is about the design build contract. And so
Okay.
those incinerators were installed, design build, and then the building, we had a site prep contract, and then the 3 incinerators were constructed, design build, and then the remainder, the building shell and all of the other, we called it wet side processes, sludge pumping and stuff, were design bid build. So rather than falling down that rabbit hole, Stephen, what I wanted to add, the reason I turned on is Von Roll was the design builder of the 3 incinerators, outside. And I believe their subcontractor was Harris Mechanical.
Great.
There might have been others. Yep. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Renee. There's a question of, will a transcript from this meeting be made available? We are recording the meeting, also this Q&A right now, that we plan on posting a link to the video, that if you want to watch it again, or if you want to share it with other people. Additionally, we plan on posting the copy of the PD or the PowerPoint on there as well. So hopefully that answers your question. The next question is, the vendor has a professional service agreement, but will the design build contractors be compensated directly through MCES? So yes, the incinerator vendor does have a professional services agreement to support the design builders during that design build RFP. But like Renee mentioned before, we are not planning on having a stipend. But at the end, at the end of the day, when we have one contract for the project to design and build the whole thing, then that contract from the design builder will be with the council. The next question is, will there be a stipend to the selected RFP proposers be funded by MCES to assist the significant effort of developing a proposal? Like Renee mentioned before, there is currently no plan to offer a stipend. The next question, in general, who will be on the evaluation panel for the design build contract? I guess, I don't know if Auburn, if you can share maybe a little bit more information on evaluation panels in general.
Yeah, I can share some of the basics. We, as a rule under the Data Practices Act, the names of the members of the panel are not public until the contract is executed. And I wouldn't know them at this point anyway, but we typically, on a project of this size, would have membership from the Stephen and Renee's group, We would likely have somebody from an external stakeholder, someone from the county or the city, something like that. And someone from finance would definitely be involved as well.
Great, thanks, Auburn. The next question is, what percentage complete will the design be that is provided in the RFP? Renee, if you'd like to tackle that first. I can also take a stab at it if you'd like.
No, I'll try. So I always wince at this question at percent complete. But what I can tell you is that we looked at detail where we wanted to based on our experience, like maybe in some places in the specifications, as Stephen mentioned, we might, or we did, specify like specific construction materials, or have some more thought out detail in our specifications. We do not have P&IDs, which is like a 30%. So I would shy away from the percentage complete and say we have developed more detail where we thought it necessary. We do have a 3D model of facilities and proposed conceptual facilities, the fourth incinerator, and you can see that on the website. And we are discussing how to share that information, which I think is actually, Stephen, would be more detailed than, a general layout plan of equipment. So I will say that we have developed pretty good concepts through a 3D model, and we have some specifications where we wanted to be more specific based on the council's experience with the existing three and the renewals that we've completed up to this point.
Great,
Steve,
thanks, Renee.
would you add anything?
Yeah, I guess I would just, like kind of Renee said, I think specific items, we have definitely maybe added a little bit more detail, like she says, like the incinerator train is definitely one of those items. We're also trying to, leave enough flexibility for the design builder and not take it too far that the design happens during the design build phase as well. So the next question we have, I can take a stab at this and maybe Renee, you can add. With an 18-month window for the design build RFP, can you provide additional detail as to what expectations are and why you have allowed 18 months? Do you expect to compensate the 3 shortlisted design build teams? Yeah, I mean, I can share a little bit on, one of the main drivers, like Renee mentioned before, is the air permitting and the 18-month review through the state implementation plan revision. We have 18 months in here because we, don't plan to proceed until that is all complete. There is the potential, we're optimistic that potentially that SIP revision and this procurement phase can go quicker. And in that event, we would like to start earlier. So that's kind of, that's why the schedule is laid out that way. And then do you expect to compensate the 3 shortlisted design build teams? Like Renee mentioned before, at this point, we're not offering a stipend. But Renee, would you like to add anything else?
I don't think so. It's just very important to us that we have a permit to construct and a permit to operate that fourth incinerator before initiating a construction contract.
And I will just add, I mean, schedule is a very important driver for us. We, obviously we want to start construction as soon as we can. We have, like Renee mentioned in the presentation, a huge need to get this 4th incinerator installed. So we definitely want to, to do everything we can to start construction as soon as possible. The next question is, will Metro Council allow enhancements or improvements to the Black & Veatch design, also called alternative technical concepts? Sometimes will those be vetted and approved prior to the bid submittal so that any potential savings of time and money can be passed on to the Metro Council on bid day? Great question. Maybe Renee, you could take that one.
I think we absolutely. Absolutely. We have requested, you know, we will always request value added ideas and consider those before entering into a contract. So yes, we want the you know, the best facilities possibility. And so absolutely, I think provided for those in both of those RFPs.
Great, thanks, Renee. The next question, is there a comprehensive geotech report that will be available to all design build RFP proposers? Yes, we have completed a geotechnical report for where the building additions will go, and yes, I would expect that would be included with the design build RFP. The next question we have is the RFP for the design build. If the RFP for the design build is published in July of 2022 and construction start date is anticipated to be January 2024, it seems to be a long duration for a design build contractor to turn in a price and hold it for the duration. My thing moved. Sorry about that. Could you please elaborate when the owner is expecting the design build proposals to the owner? I can take the first stab at this, and then Renee, you can jump in. We're looking probably towards the end of July in 2022 for when we would, put the design build RFP to issue it. I don't know exactly, how long the RFP process or how much time we plan on advertising it for, but there would be a certain, a period of time where it's out on the street. I would probably expect, that's, I don't know if Renee, if you want to jump in here, but, we would be probably, I don't want to say exact time because we actually haven't talked about it yet, but it would be fair to say, I think, we'd expect the design build proposals to be submitted in kind of, fall of 2022. And I see your point on turning in the price and holding it for the duration. So I think that's something that, we will have to discuss and evaluate as we're developing the design build RFP. We did with the incinerator vendor RFP, put some clauses in there, for escalation. So I don't know, Renee, if you want to add anything else.
Right. I think we are trying to address escalation, and you'll have to look at that in the RFP and provide questions, or if there's ask us questions if that's unacceptable. What we have scheduled is I know it's one box here, but we have planned to issue the design build RFP in July of 2022. And it would probably be, we would be able to, it takes us probably 4 to 6 months to evaluate the proposals. And to make a selection and to get that selection approved through the Environment Committee and the council. Our council needs to authorize, agree with, and then authorize us to enter into contracts of this sort. And so I think it might not be the fall, Stephen. I think it'll be December 2022 through January or February 2023. I think it'll be the initial part of 2023 where we're actually make a selection, and then it's going to take us some time to work through our evaluation and approval process. Thank you. I hope that answers the question. It takes us 4 to 6 months to get through evaluation and approval.
Great, thanks, Renee. The next question we have is, when you refer to the incinerator train, is this everything indeed to stack, including the boiler, turbine, air pollution control equipment, and SEMS, or is it just the incinerator? That's a great question. Currently, I think it is not, it is the main incinerator train component. So when we talk about the incinerator vendor RFP and what would be in that price that they're submitting, it includes the incinerator itself, which we currently have the incinerator vendor doing the installation of that. The heat exchangers, waste heat boiler, air pollution control equipment. That's what's included in that scope. I believe like the duct work and the SEMS is part of the design builders scope. The steam turbine generator would be part of the design builders scope that would not be included in the incinerator vendor RFP. So hopefully that clears up what's included in that incinerator vendor RFP. The next question is, how will you provide a forum to vet potential ATCs if you have not determined if you can or will have confidential one-on-one meetings? I think you're referring to the alternative technical concepts. So Auburn, I don't know if you'd like to take that one.
Yeah, I think that'll be part of that same conversation. If we are going to have the meetings, then that will be the forum. If we aren't going to have the meetings, then we'll have to determine what kind of forum we're going to use. I'm quite certain that we'll allow at least some sort of meeting, but I just don't know yet what that's going to look like.
And just to clarify on thanks, Auburn. Just to clarify on one of my earlier responses on what's included in that incinerator RFP, the ductwork is also included in the scope for the incinerator vendor RFP. The next question is, will the incinerator vendor be chosen to supply only the incinerator during the first RFP process, or will the incinerator vendor also supply the heat recovery, air pollution control systems, and other auxiliary during the incinerator vendor RFP process? Yeah, similar to the question before, the plan is to have the incinerator vendor supply and construct the incinerator itself. Then they would provide the heat exchangers, the waste heat boiler, air pollution control equipment, the ductwork connecting those pieces of equipment. Also included in that scope is the carbon tower, since that's connected with the air pollution control equipment. And that's really kind of the main equipment that's included in that scope. We have another, let me see. I think that has gotten down to the last question that we have in here. I don't see any hand raise at this time. Would welcome if anyone has any additional questions. There's been some great questions today, and we really appreciate the interaction and the questions that people have brought and had here. So I guess I'd open it up if anyone has any additional questions. Please enter them in the chat, or you can also raise your hand if you'd like to say one verbally.
Stephen, this is Auburn. Pardon me if I missed it, but it looks like there was a question about percent of best value that cost will represent in the selection criteria. Did we answer that one?
No, I don't think I saw that one. So if you want to take that one, that would be great.
Yeah, sure. Again, I'm going to give the standard, procurement answer of refusing to promise anything in particular at this stage. But I will say that our council standard kind of language that we use in most of our RFPs is that cost is approximately equal to all of the other qualitative criteria. So again, we haven't gotten down to the nitty gritty yet of what the criteria are going to be and what the weights are going to be in this RFP, but that is sort of our standard, and I wouldn't think we would differ too far from that in this one.
Great, thanks, Auburn. And if anyone has any, or if I did not get to their question, please feel free to enter it into the chat again, or if anyone has any additional questions, feel free to enter those or raise your hand. Give a little bit of time if anyone's typing a question at this time. It's like we have one more question. Would the expectation be for the design build team to provide sealed engineered drawings as part of the RFP stage, as part of the RFP deliverable, or during the construction phase? Renee, if I could pass that one to you, that would be great.
So the question was during the RFP. I am not certain. Looking at that final, I wouldn't anticipate so, because we develop final plans and specs for construction. Yes, for the after the contract is issued and before construction. And I don't anticipate that being a requirement for a proposal.
Great, thanks, Renee. We have another question. Will NCES negotiate the incinerator vendor fee, or leaving that up to the design builders? As part of the incinerator vendor RFP, there'll be qualifications, experience, and the proposal itself, but there will also be a price component that the incinerator vendors will submit as part of that RFP. So then that price and that scope that the selected incinerator vendor submits will then get included in the design build RFP itself. Ultimately, we are not going into a contract with the incinerator vendor for that scope and fee. So ultimately, it's up to the design builder to work with the incinerator vendor to come up with their own subcontract agreement. Any other questions? I think it's some great questions today. Appreciate again everyone's participation in the Q&A part. I'll give just maybe a few more seconds if anyone has any additional questions. All right. Well, I will turn it over to Renee to make some closing statements.
Thank you, Stephen. Thank you, panelists. Thank you, HDR. And thank you, attendees, for your interest in the 4th incinerator project at the Metro plant, and for attending and being so participative in the Q&A session. Like Stephen said, this is a very exciting project for us at the council, and very important to our regional wastewater system. And I look forward to the next opportunities for meetings, whether it's a pre-proposal. Just thank you again. I hope you have a lovely day. And the reminder is, following this, we will put together the presentation and the script, and we'll post those on the website, and we'll email attendee list and at least the PowerPoint presentation out to the attendees. Thank you so much. Have a great day, everyone.